Ask Ishaq Bhai, Ishaq Uddin. He's a youth worker, and I'm sure you have seen lots of young people in this country. How do they celebrate Eid? And as a Bangladeshi, I'm not sure whether you have seen how people in Bangladesh, how do they celebrate Eid. But what is the meaning of Eid to you?
I think, firstly, I want to thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
Especially the viewers are saying salam to everyone and Eid Mubarak. Eid to us is a time of happiness,
Yeah.
for two reasons. Eid al-Adha, people do Hajj and they do Qurbani.
Yeah.
In the same time, they get
Those who can.
those who can.
Yeah.
So this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah,
Lots of people get forgiven.
Yeah, forgiving.
This is one of the best celebrations we can do. Another thing is for the youth, especially kids. I can remember my own, I'll share it maybe.
Yeah.
Amazing for kids because we get, like my brother said, the food, the sweets, the clothes, and everyone comes together. It is the only day probably in the whole year everyone's happy. We don't see enemies. We don't see any backbite. We don't see anything negative.
Unites people.
Unites people, honestly, and people are happy. And I hope every day is like a Eid.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be every day is like a Eid.
This is the lesson we have to get from Eid. Actually.
Definitely.
About we forget it after, as soon as we finish our Eid day, we tend to forget this message. But Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, He wants us to remember this and use this experience and throughout the year. But we do not usually do that.
And especially this is also a celebration for people who be poor.
Yeah.
You know, this is the time where everybody can wear the new clothes. Yeah. Even if they can't afford it, at least they can have a good food.
Yeah.
And it's for a test for us. Yeah. The one who has a bit of money, we can share our food, our clothes and other stuff. Yeah. So I think it's, all in all, I think it's one of the best days probably.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Subhanallah.